Welcome to our channel, $1,000,000 Made Easy. On this channel, we create spreadsheets and then run numbers for people to show them where they might be in the future. And people can get excited when they see their actual numbers because you will simply be amazed. We want to look at the issue. Do whatever you can to get that first 100,000 by age 40. Now, I'm kind of paraphrasing what Charlie Munger said. He says, do whatever you can to get that $100,000 and then you can coast. But I actually put an age limit on it. Let's say try to do it by age 40. But let's say, for example, you don't. You're age 40, you haven't done a thing. You can save $650 a month. Now, what we do on this channel is we run numbers using the S&P 500, the results for the last 100 years. For example, if we use 1925 numbers going forward, of course, none of these will be identical, but we're just kind of projecting what you might have in the future. And 1925 numbers, after 25 years, putting in $650 a month, you would have had $551,000. You see the 650 going down through there? And by the time you get to the 25th year, you can barely see it right there, 551,142. Now we're going to look at somebody that's 40 years old. So we're going to look at actually somebody that's got 26 years until they're age 66. That's the closest I can come to either 65 or 67. So over that 26-year period, if you put in $650 a month, you would have put in $202,800. Now what we want to do is update this for every single year from 1925 on. It's calculating all these numbers, and it's going to show you what you would have if the returns for the last 100 years what they were for a 26-year period. And I've got them color-coded here to maybe help you see this. 51% of the time, you would have had over $1 million in the last 100 years for a 26-year period. The worst case scenario right here, you'd have 534,000. Some of these are lower than $1 million, and it's color-coded in green. If it's over $1 million, it's color-coded in blue. If it's over 1.5 million, it's color-coded in gold. It's over $2 million. So try to remember those numbers. 51% of the time, getting to $1 million, putting in just over 200,000. Now, what we want to do now is take Charlie Munger's advice, get that first 100,000, and then you can coast. What happens if we just have 100,000? Let's go back here, and you're not going to put in another dime. Again, 51% of the time you get to $1 million, putting in $650 a month if you don't already have anything. And we're going to run this for project ahead for like a 40-year-old. So you got 100,000. That's the beginning balance, Charlie Munger's recommendation, but we're not going to add another dime. We're just going to go and update the numbers. Remember this number, 51% of the time you get to $1 million. Now that was putting in 202,000. Now we're just going to be putting in 100,000. That's what this black row shows you all the way across here. We're not going to add another dime. We're going to go ahead and update this for every single year. Remember that 51%. 51% of the time putting in $650 a month. Ultimately putting in over 200,000. Here you're only putting in 100,000. How many times do you get to $1 million? Before you got to $1 million 51% of the time. Now you get to 77% of the time you get to $1 million, putting in half as much money. What happens if we increase this? Again, get to 100,000 and then coast. Well, what do we mean by coasting? Not putting another dime. What about if we just put in, instead of that 650 we looked at, let's put in $300 a month. The reason I'm picking 300 is that gets us close to the 200,000 we would have done if we did $650 a month. Now we're going to go ahead and update this. Remember it was 51% before, get to $1 million? Watch what happens when we simply have that 100,000 to begin with. Instead of having to put in $650 a month, which would be put $202,000, we're going to put in $300 a month, which would mean ultimately you'd be putting in $193,000. Look at where you would be 99% of the time you get to $1 million. It was only about one time in there you wouldn't quite make it to $1 million, and that'd be $987,000. Let's see if we can find that. Yeah, it's right down here in 1956. That's the only time you wouldn't have made it to $1 million if you have that 100,000 by age 40. Again, we're looking at age 40. We're looking at a 26-year column because we're assuming somebody's 40 years old. Because that's what we wanted to show you. Do everything you can to get that first 100,000, and then you can basically coast. Again, you're putting in the same amount of money as if you had to put in $650 a month without any beginning balance. But let's just consider a couple other things. What happens if you had this 100,000 even earlier? Say you had it maybe age 30, 38. Look at the 20-year column now. Right now you got it making it 99% of the time. If I click on this 28-year, it's going to show you get to $1 million 100% of the time. We haven't done anything except we just had you getting this 100,000 at age 38 instead of age 40, going to age 66 again. Again, putting in this case, you're putting in that 200,000. Remember before it was 202,000. Worst case scenario, you'd have 1.415 million. And you can see right here, color coded in blue. We're looking at the 28-year column now. Somebody that's 38 years old going to age 66 get it 96% of the time you get to 1.5 million. And folks, if you look at all these other numbers, just think what happens if you get to 100,000 even earlier. Maybe you get to age 100, get 100,000 saved up by age 60, by age 35, by age 65, you would have put in 208,000. But look, in the worst case scenario, you'd have over $2 million. Let's click on this one right here. 97% of the time you get to $2 million. Every time it's gold, you're getting over $2 million. See the importance of trying to get that first 100,000, then you can coast. That's what we're trying to show on this video. That's what we love doing, running numbers for people, kind of bouncing off what people are talking about, and this showing you if you can be in it for at least 25 years, preferably even 30 years, these are the kind of numbers you can look at. But if you can get that $100,000 as early in your working career as you can. We were looking at age 40 first, but if we go down to age 35 and just run it for 30 years, look at the kind of numbers you can have. Please consider subscribing to this channel. Please let people know about this channel. The more people see these numbers, the more they're encouraged, the more they're excited, and the more they just want to keep checking on these videos to see where they might be in the future, because everybody's numbers are different. Again, please like the video, and thanks for watching.